Hello everyone and welcome to another episode here on Eat Sleep Breathe. So in this week's video what we are going to be covering is kind of how I built and what I'm using as a secondary chamber for my calcium reactor. So what I'm going to do here, I'm going to show you guys where I got it, kind of give you guys a little bit of a rundown of why I'm doing a dual chamber, and then we'll pretty much get to the assembly as well as the quick tips I found out. So the secondary chamber I am running is a Avast Works media reactor. Great company, guys. If you guys haven't checked them out, they make tons of reactors, skimmers, great selection of stuff. More importantly, really good pricing and great quality. One thing you're gonna notice on their website, they have kind of their own pre-built reactors as well as do it yourself. So they'll supply you with everything you need. And pretty much you build it from there. Whatever route you go, you can ensure that you're going to have a very reliable, very affordable, and just an all-in-all great reactor, skimmer, calcster. I mean, they got a bunch of stuff on the website, so be sure to check them out. So I know a lot of people are out there wondering, so why in the heck are you running two chambers for calcium reactor? So very quickly, I don't want to confuse you guys. I want to keep it very simple. In a nutshell, the reason I'm running two chambers, and you see a lot of people run two chambers, is because the way you break down media, in other words coral, to get out the elements, is you have to lower the pH of the water. Inherently, you can realize what's going to happen to your tank pH, right? If you're dropping in low pH, guess what's going to happen to your overall pH? It's going to drop, right? So running a dual chamber reactor allows more surface and contact time on the media, so it's able to grab the CO2 out of the water column, thus increasing the pH. So by the time it exits a second reactor, it's had more contact time with the media, so then when it drips into your tank, it's a more elevated pH. So that's kind of one of the ways you can bypass. A lot of people that talk about calcium reactors, they'll say, well, it lowers your pH. Well, yes and no, and there is ways to avoid it. I will tell you this, guys, in running my tank, ever since I've been running the calcium reactor, I have not noticed one change in the pH from what I typically run. So I don't know if maybe my method has been working. I'm pretty sure it has, but if you are thinking of starting one up, I wouldn't be afraid to get one going. So right off the bat, I do have the MR10 reactor from Avast Works, and you can see I also asked them to supply me with the RO fittings. Again, this reactor can be used pretty much for anything you want. So it comes with standard hose fittings, and since I'm going to be using it for a calcium reactor, I asked them if they could include the RO fittings, which is what you just saw me assembling. So the model I have here is pretty much all assembled from them. I didn't have to do the assembly, although guys, they do offer this for a lower price, and obviously you assemble it yourself. It's very easy, whatever route you want to go. Very nice of them to offer kind of the two combos. So here you can see the hose fittings that it does come with. Obviously, since I'm not going to be running these bad boys, I'm going to have to take these off and install the RO fittings, which are the ones I just set down. When installing the RO fittings, there's different methods you can use it. Here you can see when I take these guys off, they actually use Teflon tape around these here. You can do the same thing. Another thing I've seen some companies do is they put some silicone adhesive, silicone glue, whichever you want to call it, around the threads, and just thread that in, and that should give you a solid seal. So either way you want to go, both of them work great. I did the Teflon one, just like you can see here. This is how Avast Works does it, so I'm pretty sure they've sold quite a bit of these, and if it's working for them and their customers, I'm pretty sure it's going to work for us as well. So like I said, if you're just using this reactor as a media reactor, obviously you would just leave these fittings that are already on there. Again, the reason I'm removing them is because I'm going to be using it for a secondary chamber, and typically calcium reactors run on RO lines, so thus is why I asked them to give us some RO fittings. Good thing is working with a company like this, send them an email, they're very quick to reply, and they're able to customize obviously these as much as they can do. So the customer service is great. If you guys are looking for something like this, be sure to send them an email, let them know exactly what you're looking for, and I'm pretty sure they'll guide you in the right direction. Again, assembling is going to be very straightforward. It's pretty much the opposite of how we disassemble it. So just pay attention when you disassemble it. Wrap some Teflon tape around anywhere that there's going to be threads. This is going to ensure that there's no leaks coming from your reactor. Last thing you want is set this thing up and pretty much water going everywhere, because it won't be a good day for you, not only because of the tank, but I'm pretty sure your wife is going to get on your case. So yeah, be sure you put Teflon or the silicone method around anywhere that's going to be threads. When tightening it down, don't go too crazy, guys. Obviously, you want to use a good amount of pressure to tighten it down, but it doesn't need an excess amount of pressure. Again, pay attention how you took it apart, because putting it back together is just the opposite of that. In my specific scenario, I'm not going to be using the little foam pads that are in here. Obviously, if you were to be using this as, like, let's say a media reactor, whether GFO or carbon, you could probably leave these foam pads either towards the bottom or towards the top. But again, in my case, I'm not going to be using them, so I'm going to take them out and pretty much save them for later, or just you can toss them out. Believe it or not, the whole assembly is pretty much complete of it. All we really had to do is just change the bulkheads on it to accept, again, the RO line. What I'm going to be doing now is filling it with the media. One thing you want to be doing is you want to plug up the center hole. You can see I did that with a little towel here. Last thing you're going to want is media falling into that little hole, later obstructing it, essentially clogging it down the road. It can just lead to a whole mess of problems. You want to actually use the same technique whether you're filling a GFO reactor or a carbon reactor. You always want to cover up the center little hole with a little towel or whatever method works for you, but you want to be sure you cover it up, because you don't want media getting in there, because again, that's going to restrict the flow. As far as putting the media in here, it's very straightforward, guys. You literally, as you can see here, just drop it in there. There's really no crazy technique to it. Again, if you're not using this as a calcium reactor, you're obviously not going to be using coral skeletons to fill your reactor. But in my case, I'm going to be using it as a calcium reactor, secondary chamber, so we're pretty much just filling it in. Other than that, guys, it's pretty straightforward. One tip I do want to give you guys, the little O-ring on the top, when you do tighten the screws down, make sure that O-ring is nice and clean. Make sure there's no debris from your media obstructing it from making a good seal on the excuse me, on the top lid. Also, another thing, you do not want to over tighten it. The first time I set up this reactor, I actually had it leaking because I over tightened it. And typically what will end up happening is you'll warp the top cover, and thus it'll allow water to get out through it. And again, this is not just on this reactor. The same applies for any reactor that has an O-ring. They don't take a crazy amount of force, because again, it's really the O-ring and just a nice even pressure on the top lid that's going to essentially create the seal. So you can see me here wiping it down for all the media, just making sure that it's nice and seated, because again, last thing we want is it to be leaking. So guys, that's going to be it for today's video. Again, it was pretty straightforward. Hopefully you guys enjoyed it. I really hope you guys enjoyed watching me set up this media reactor by Avast Marine. And guys, please do me a favor, check them out. Head over to the website. I'm going to have the link in the description. I do want to give a disclaimer out, guys. They did sponsor this secondary chamber, so they did send it to me, and I want to be, give them a huge thanks. And as a huge thanks, guys, all I ask of you is you head over, check them out, keep them in mind if ever you're looking for a skimmer, a reactor, a calcster. Actually, believe it or not, guys, I may purchase their calcster, because again, I'd love to use that to increase my pH and just really see what that'll do to my corals, but we'll save that for a different day. So thank you guys very much for watching. If you guys have any questions, comments, or concerns, please leave them down in the comment box below. As always, thanks for watching. Happy reefing.